Hey guys, thanks for joining me. This is Angie at Chicken Scratch. This is the card we're making today, and we are using the Hoot Hoot Hooray stamp set. If you didn't see this in the annual catalog, it's because it's not in there. It's actually in our beginner stamper brochure. This was just released this month. It's on page 12, and you can find this brochure on the sidebar of my website. It does have 3 exclusive sets to this publication: Hoot Hoot Hooray, Celebrate with Cake, and this Magnolia Blooms. This is a smaller version of the Good Morning Magnolia that's in our annual catalog. Okay, so we used Coastal Cabana for this one, and then Flirty Flamingo for this one, and now we're going to be using Highland Heather. So we are using the Designer Series paper stacks. Those come in 6x6 sheets, and the first thing that you're going to do is actually cut that down to measure 3x3. So that's going to give you 4 pieces that measure 3x3, so you can make 4 of these cards out of one of these. Okay, so I'm going to cut 3 and 3. Now let me give you the rest of the measurements. Highland Heather, 8.5 by 5.5, and then another piece of Highland Heather that is 5.25 by 4. That's this layer right here. Another piece, this is the scraps that was left over from this full sheet. We're going to be using that to cut out this button and this scallop square. You already know the measurement of the Designer Series paper. And the Highland Heathers is in the Subtles pack. The Flirty Flamingo and the Coastal Cabana is in the Brights pack, okay? And then I've got 2 pieces of Whisper White that measure 5.25 by 4. One's going to go in the inside, and then the other one is to cut out our square here. Okay, if you do not have the framelits that we're using today, which is the Stitch Shapes and the Layering Squares, this one measures 2 1/8, this one measures 2 1/4, and this one measures 2 3/4. Okay, so you can just use simple squares if you want to. So that measures 2 3/4. We're using this 3x3 piece, so we're going to be cutting this out with the Layering Squares framelit. But let's start at the base, at the card base first, and let's go ahead and get that scored. I'm going to place it on the Simply Scored scoring tool and score it at 4 1/4. And then fold it over. I'm going to use my bone folder to flatten it out. I'll go ahead and add the inside layer. So I'm just going to turn this over and get my liquid glue. Okay, now for this layer here, we want to emboss that with the Layered Leaves embossing folder. This is a 3D embossing folder, so you only need 1 cutting pad to emboss this. Okay, I'm going to grab the Big Shot. While we're at it, we're going to go ahead and cut out the buttons, and this is not 3D, so you do need 2 cutting pads for this one. You can tell the difference. This one's super thick, this one's really thin. So 1 cutting pad, 2 cutting pads. Let me get the Big Shot. Okay, so let's start with the button embossing folder, and I'm just going to place this in there. I've got 1 cutting pad down, and because this is the thin one, I'm going to add a second one and then roll it through. Okay, so now let's take the Layered Leaves, and we're going to emboss this 5 1/4 by 4. And remember, we only need 1 cutting pad for the 3D embossing folders, okay? Okay, so here is our Layered Leaves. Now we're going to take that and add it to our card front. So I'm just going to take my Stampin' Dimensionals. I want to put 1 in each corner and 1 in the middle. Okay. Now before you add this, just kind of look and see if the leaves are going in the direction that you want. See, for me, I think that's upside down. So I'm going to place it this way. You don't have to do that, but you can. Okay, now our little button right here, You can, there's several little ones, several large ones. Use whatever circle you want to use. I kind of like this little one right here. So I'm just going to cut. Oh, that one's really cute too. Let's see. Well, I'm going to stick with the one I used before. So I'm just going to whack this and then take my 1/2 inch circle punch. Okay, there's that. If you want this to be shiny, you could emboss this with clear embossing powder. Okay, now let's stamp. Again, Hoot Hoot Hooray stamp set. I'm using Memento ink. Now let me explain the colors of the markers. For this one, I used light Bermuda Bay and light Pool Party because this is Coastal Cabana. We don't have Coastal Cabana in the blends, but light Bermuda Bay, light Pool Party. Looks like it goes perfectly, right? This one's Flirty Flamingo. I didn't do the light in the dark, but I prefer the light in the dark if you look at this one. Okay, so now this one we're going to use Daffodil Delight combo, Highland Heather combo, Granny Apple Green combo. Okay, so let's start with the Granny Apple Green dark. And let's see, make sure I have the right end. I'm just going to color. Okay, and then now the light Granny Apple Green. Okay, now let's take the dark Daffodil Delight, and I'm just going to add a little bit, and then the light Daffodil Delight. Now the dark Highland Heather. You guys will have to share with me which color was your favorite of the 3 colors. I could just keep going and make them in every color, right? And then now I'm going to take the light Highland Heather. Okay, if you were a customer, while I'm coloring, if you were a customer that received a catalog from me this year, I put a coupon in with your catalog. So don't forget that coupon is expiring next week, the beginning of next week. Okay, I think all the coloring is done. It looks pretty good, right? So we're going to get the Big Shot out again. We're going to cut this out with the stitch shape. And then while we're at it, we're going to also cut out our Designer Series paper, and then another sheet of the Highland Heather for the scallop square. So let me move all of this out of the way and we'll get the Big Shot. Okay, so let's start with the image. Again, I'm using these stitch shape framelits. And then now let's cut out the Highland Heather with the layering. That's a scallop square. Whoops, get back on there. And then our largest one, and that just fits perfectly because this was 3 by 3 and this is 2 3/4. Okay, so let's get all of our layers back in here. I want to make sure that I don't lose my framelits, so put these on here. Okay, so now the image is going to get attached to the scallop square just with liquid glue. Okay, the scallop square, the Designer Series paper. Lost my words there. That goes in the center here on the card. Just hold that down for a second. And then this one's going to get dimensional, so I'm just going to take a couple. Okay, right in the middle. We're going to add our button with a mini dimensional. I'm going to take your pick tool, and let's see which side. That side. Okay, I'm just going to add it up here to the corner, right about there. So what I'm going to do is cut off the right side of this flax ribbon so that that will give me strands of it. Now you could use the white baker's twine if you have it. I think bow tie them with these. This has a little more strength to it than the baker's twine, so I really like this. Okay, so 2 pieces. Just tie a little bow. Okay, so now just make the bow smaller. And then trim the ends. And it's going to get added just like that. I can tell I want to make it a little bit shorter too. Okay, then I'm going to take your pick tool again. And I'm going to pick up a glue dot, and I want to like wad it up a little bit and place it right in the center of that button. And then add my bow. Okay, so here's the one we just made. Highland Heather, Coastal Cabana, and Flirty Flamingo. Don't forget there's an inspiration sheet over on my website that has all the measurements and a picture, and it is free. Thanks a lot and have a great day. Oh, which one's your favorite? Bye.